Hey everyone, this is Beth from Art by Bydell. It's nice to have you with me on this beautiful spring day. And I have for you the challenge for our Art by Bydell community group for the month of May. The challenge is going to be, let's jazz up the edges of our papers. So I have a few different ideas here that I'd like to share with you. Some things that I've done before and maybe something that I haven't done before. So to start with, I'd like to, let's see, choose a page that doesn't have much going for it yet. And I think it's going to be the back of this paper here. It has some gesso on it. And what I want to do is take a piece of fabric. Now I have chosen a couple fabrics to use in this journal, and one of them is this very pretty springy fabric. What I'd like to do is, what I'm going to do actually, is take a piece and I'm going to cut it to the length of my page. So if you want some measurements, they go as follows. My pages vary, but they're pretty much 8.5. So I'll cut this about that. Actually, I'm not going to cut it. I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to just cut a slip and tear it. And so I have this strip. Now, this isn't anything that I cut as far as the width. It's something that I've had in scraps, but it does measure 3 inches wide, and that's going to be a pretty good width for what I want to do. So normally we might take a piece of fabric and we might lay it on the edge of our page and fold it over, glue it down, and we're going to do that today. But to start with, I'd like to do something a little bit different with it. So I'm going to pull out my scrap box here. I'm going to find something that matches this journal fairly well, and something that's kind of colorful and pretty, not too heavy. We could go with this scrap. This is kind of pretty. And how does that go with our fabric? Not too bad at all, really. There's some blues and greens in there. So I'm going to take that piece of scrap and I am just going to fold it in half. And I like to ink things up around the edge. You don't have to do that, but I'm going to. So I have my ink applicator tool here. It's one of the Tim Holtz tools, and it is Distress Oxide Vintage Photo. Now, you can use any ink that you want to use. You can use any applicator that you want to use. You could use a cotton ball. You can just take your paper to the edge of your ink pad and rub it on there, and that gets a nice dark color going on. Use what you have. I'm not telling anybody that they have to go out and buy Distress Oxide Vintage Photo or a Tim Holtz applicator tool. I'm just telling you what I'm using, but you could use what you want. Now, so I have this, and I am going to take this one, and I'm going to use some tacky glue, and I move my book out of the way here. Just put tacky glue mostly on the outside edges of this, a little bit down the inside. And then I'm going to add it to the side of my page, lining it up with the top. And then I'm going to fold it over. So this is what we have on the edge of this page so far. Now I have this piece of fabric that I also want to add to it. Where did it go? There it goes. And we're going to fold it in half. Give it a crease. And let's get some glue on that. And again, I'm using tacky. You can use fabric glue, whatever works for you guys. I have tacky glue easily available to me. Any other glue I have to order, or I have to drive 45 minutes to go get. So this is easy for me to get, and I tend to use a lot of this. All right, now what I want to do is and this can be tricky, so you may want to put a scrap piece of paper under your page here, like this, and I want to take it on an angle. So I'll take my fabric, and I'm going to start with the whole piece on the bottom edge at an angle, press it down, pull my paper over, and then roll this piece of fabric over to the other side. And okay, so I've made a mistake, and it's a good thing I've made a mistake so that I can show you. You don't want all of this at the top going that way. So what I should have done, and let me show you again, I'm going to take this off, and because my piece is at the top here, I want to have the majority of my fabric up there so that that peeks through like that. Then I'll fold it over, then I can fold it over this way, and we can still see our pretty paper here that we put on. Okay, and if you have to add a little more glue, like right there, I need to add a little bit more glue, I'll go in there. And I'll put just another drop and fold that fabric over onto my page and add more wherever I need to add more. That looks good. Put a good press so that we know it's going to stay. Wipe off any excess glue. You roll it over, and now we have this on this side that really helps to decorate up this page. It gives a lot more texture and a lot more color to it. And like I say, you can have these strips be any width that you want. There'll just be less fabric, of course, showing. But that really dresses up the edge of that page. So there's one idea. Now, another idea that you have seen me use in my journals is to add some ruffle to the edge of my page. So I have some leftover green ruffle from another project I did, and I'm going to choose another page here. Let's see. Let's go into the second signature and find something over here. Okay, on this third signature, I have a piece of, well, let me see. I have a page out of a bird book. I'm going to dress that up a little bit. So I'm going to take my fabric and I'm going to cut it to the length of my ruffle, and cut it to the length of my page. There we go. And it can go on the side all the way over like this, where what I normally do is take where I have stitched, and I will line that stitch line up with the edge of my paper here, and I'll put glue along this, which helps to keep my ruffle from ever falling apart. So let me get some tacky glue on that. And then I want to put my piece of paper in there again. And then I'll take my edge where I have, or where I have stitched it, and put it along the edge of my paper here. I didn't get it quite as long as my page, but that's okay. Flip it over, make sure that it's where I want it to be, and it needs to go in a little bit more. Okay, I'm all thumbs here today, guys. Press that down. Now, a lot of times I will machine stitch this. I'm trying to keep everything simple. I know many of you don't like machine stitching, or you don't have a machine, or you don't know how. So I'm trying to keep everything I do in this book as simple as possible. I'm not saying that later I won't go in and add some stitching to this, but for your benefit today, for this video, we're going to keep it simple. So there we have that page that has a bit of a ruffle on it, which is pretty cool. Another thing that I have done before is to add lace. So I have chosen some beige creamy ivory lace that I want to add. Let's go to the second signature. And I kind of try to balance out my elements that I'm doing. So if I have like this ruffle here, and back here I have the fabric. Now on the second signature, let's add some lace to the second signature. So I'll look for a page here that I think some lace would be pretty on. And let's just hold some up to it and see what we think. We have this page. This page is just some cleanup paper from my desk. And we could put a piece of lace on that. That looks really pretty. Or I was thinking of this book page back here, and that looks pretty. I'm going to go with that. So again, I will cut a piece of lace the length of my page, and I will add some tacky glue right down along the edge of my page. This time I'm putting it on my page, right like that. And then I'll take my lace and I will lay it right on the glue, and I will hold it there until that glue starts to set. Again, this can be machine stitched, or we can just leave it as it is with the glue. It is totally up to you. Okay, so let's take the other side over and look and see how it's going. Looking pretty good. It doesn't want to stick there, so let's get a little more glue. I was pretty skimpy with the glue, guys. That seems to be doing better. So the best thing for this would be to let it dry and not disturb it until it's completely dry. We don't have that option here right at this moment. Pull this back off that page. Looks good. That's pretty. I like that. So now that I have chosen this lace and that fabric, these are the elements that I'll use throughout the journal until they're gone. So we have that. That looks nice. All right, let's see. The next up we've done, we can just do some paper. Now, what I have is, if you buy a paper pad and you go to pull your paper out of that paper pad, there are some now that you can take in and take out. Take in and put back in. That's these ones anyhow. This comes from the paper pad where I've torn off my paper, and it's the edge, and this is what was in the binding, and I am going to use that on some edges here. So I have this bag, but I'm afraid putting things in and out of the bag would really ruin my little tabs there that I have. So let's go to another one. Okay, that's kind of pretty. It sticks in a little, and that might be a good thing if we keep it inside our pages. So I think that's what we'll do, and we'll keep that right there. You could take different colors of inks and ink these up. You could watercolor them. This is watercolor paper, so that would be very appropriate. You could use some acrylic paint. You could just leave it as it is. I am going to ink it up with my Distress Oxide and put that in. Go all the way around it, and I have to do both sides because the other side is going to show too. Now all we're doing is decorating our pages. We'll go back in later and we'll do more to this edging here. When we do our page, we'll incorporate it into the design of our page. So if we've done a collage, we may add some of those elements onto here. I can see this having some stamped numbers or letters right up this side here, or maybe a one sentence quote, phrase, whatever stamped on there, just some words, something. I can see that happening with this. So now we have this all inked up. We're going to put a little bit of tacky glue on this, right down along the side here where we won't be letting it hang over. Only the tabs are going to hang over. So now I'm going to take this, I'm going to add it to this page right here. Let my tabs hang over and press it in place. And then when you look on the back side, all you see are the tabs. How cool is that, guys? Now, I really like that idea. I mean, I like all the ideas that I've done here, but let's add this again somewhere else. So that's the first signature. Let's go to the third signature and see what we have for some smaller pages that we might want to add some of that to. Now, again, I have put something in the second half of this third signature, so I'm going to look on the first half and balance it out and put something on the first half. Now, it doesn't always stay nicely balanced out for me, but I try. So here's another page out of a bird book. Let's add some of this to that. Ink it up again, and I'll save these other pieces for another time. So anything goes. When you have like scraps like this that came out of a book where you've torn the pages out of and you think, well, that's just of no use, but it is. It is. It has a nice design to it, a nice texture to it. It's just a really cool piece of paper, actually. And of course, we're going to do both sides. I'm anxious to work on these pages and do something more with this. And of course, you can now if you want. To me, it's just easier when I go to work on my page. If I didn't have anything on this other than the ink that you see that I'm putting on it now, it makes it a more open canvas for me. Whereas if I had something that I already put on it, then I was going to have to make that whole page match what I put on it. So I would rather do it all at once. And since today we're just showing you how to address the edges of some of your pages, we really don't have time to do up the whole pages of everything that I'm showing you. So again, just have the tabs sticking out over the edge, and I've made this one a little too long, so I'll go back in and cut that off and press it down. Make sure it's right over here, and then I can go up here on top and cut that off. So there we go. We have two of those on there. That extends that page out to the edge. And we're looking good. We're adding color. We're getting some things going on here, guys. Now that lace that I put on here, I will end up adding that like in 2 more places. Because for me, when I look at the edge of my book here, just one piece of this lace sticking out like that, it's not balanced for me. I mean, the ruffle kind of balances this, so I could just do 1 more piece of lace. But if I were to do that, I should have had the ruffle in the middle and then the lace on the outside edges. So anyhow, that's one way that I'll keep that balanced. Now, another thing that we can do, let's see, I have a list over here. And we can do like all kinds of paper additions on there. It doesn't have to be just what I'm showing you. I mean, we could take some mulberry paper and just put it on the edges like that. We can take a busy piece of paper and take some of our trimmings off some sheet music. And let's see, where is there a busy piece of paper here? And we can add something neutral to that page also. Now, I wouldn't probably do every single edge of every page in my book. I like to have it kind of random here and there. But I do want to show you another really simple thing you can do. Not necessarily in this journal, but if I had a journal where I had some pages that were wider and they were going to stick out a little bit, then I would just tear them. So that could be another edge on your pages, is just to have it torn. So let's just take this for example, and let's just tear it right down, just like that. So there you have an edge that has been torn. And that adds a little more interest to your pages also. Ink it up, front and back. There we go. So there's a torn edge. Fibers. Now this is something new that I have done. I'm sure it is not new. It's something new that I have done. Let me show you. I have one done. In another journal I'm working on, I made this notepad that goes over the top of the page. And for the top border, I have taken some fibers and some trim, and I have laid them on here. And then I've zigzagged across that. Now, I know that's not the edge of one of our pages, so we could take like the edge of one of our pages and we could add some fibers to it. So, and I'm going to start with some of this that I get from the Dollar Tree, and it's in with the ribbons, in the craft department, in with the ribbons. So that is some fiber. And hold on, let me go find my other fibers I want to use. What I have are some fibers left over from my rubber stamp scrapbooking days. These ones are from a scrapbook kit from Basic Gray that was called Lily Kate, and I really like the looks of these to go along with this journal. I thought would be quite pretty. So I'm going to take a mess of them, and let's see, I do have a mess, guys. All right, so I succeeded in getting it off my card, and I had picked out these ones that were funky fibers, but I have enough here. So what I want to do, now this might be a little bit more involved than what you might want to do, but it's going to add a really cool effect. I would probably take this to the machine and do zigzag stitch all down along through there. And I would have done it before I sewed my signatures in. I didn't. So what I have to do now is get the right length. And this texture that I added first, that I said was from Dollar Tree, is going to be my base. So you'll need some sort of base, whether it's texture like that, whether it's a piece of the fabric that we've used, whatever you want to choose, or whether it's just a piece of paper, which would be really cool, actually, guys. Look at that. So that would be cool too. Let's do with the paper, because you're going to have that more than likely more accessible to you than what you're going to have that texture stuff. So I have that like that. I am going to take a needle and some embroidery floss, make a little knot in it, and I'm going to kind of hold this on here with my thumb and my index finger, come up from the back, and what I'm going to do is just stitch around that, just like this. And I'll go all the way down, adding some stitches just to hold this in place. Oh, and my needle came unthreaded. So I'll get them in a line, come up from the back, and wrap it around there and pull it back through to the back, pulling it taut. And then I'll come down a little further and keep doing this until I get to the end of my paper. Looks like I have enough thread to do it one more time. And take it to the back, and then I'll go to the back and I will tie a knot. Okay, then what I want to do is I want to take my tacky or my glue, whichever kind that you're using, and put a little glue on that knot so that it doesn't pull out of the paper and so that it doesn't come untied. And I'll do that to the top knot also. And then I can snip off the edge, the end of my embroidery floss. And I will take this strip to the page that I wanted to put it on. Was it this one? I think it was this one, but it may not have been that one, but it's going to be that one now. I pull it down, and then I can tear off the bottom of this. And look at that, guys. How's that for on the edge of your paper? Now, if you're worried that it's going to pull out, which I suppose it could, then what I would do is I would take some tacky glue up top here, and then I would press my fibers into that so that they don't pull out. And that just secures them in place. And how pretty is that for extra color on the edge of your page? And you could do the same thing with the ones down here on the bottom too. Just add a little bit of glue to the bottom and then press your fibers into it. Nice texture, nice color. I love it. It's different looking than this because this is flatter because I was zigzagged it, but they both have the same effect where it's texture and there's like threads and things going every which way, and it's just really, really cool. So that was something new that I have started doing just in this past journal. I haven't done that one before. All right, so we'll put these fibers aside because if we want to add them more in our journal, we can. Let's add a page tab out of a square of fabric onto this piece of paper on the edge. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a square. Now my square measures, let's see, approximately 3 inches. We're going to fold it vertically give it a crease, slip it on the edge of our page, wherever you want it, whether it's top, middle, toward the bottom. I'm going to put it like just below the middle is where I want it. Now we can add some fabric or some paper to this. Let's see what we have here. And we could just add just scraps. Let's take this off. Let's put it over here. And let's add some scraps to it. There's some pretty scraps that we have in our box. Here's some pink. Here is a piece of paper towel that I used when I was doing some watercoloring that has some nice textures on it. Nice colors and textures. Let's add a little bit of brown in there. Okay, and I think that's enough on there. So let's just glue those down using our tacky glue. I'm just going to put tacky glue. Well, I was going to put it on the whole thing, but then if we don't get the whole thing covered, which I don't want the whole thing covered, then we'll have glue where we don't want it. So we will put glue on each piece. This is the paper towel. Let's put this right up here, that, and then I have just a scrap piece of, I think this is a scrap piece of jelly print. So we're going to put that like across like there. I have a piece of the Hero Arts art papers. And we'll put that like maybe kitty corner. And this is a piece of scrap cardstock that I had gessoed for another journal I was working on. And I'm going to put that one right there. Okay, now, again, I would take this and I would do some crazy stitching around this whole piece with the sewing machine. You can do that, or if you like the idea of stitching, but you don't have a sewing machine, then get yourself a permanent pen, whether it's a Sharpie or whatever, just a permanent pen, and you can just add some lines, some stitching lines all the way around. So you'll have faux stitching. You can add stitching, you could add some doodling. How about we add just a leafy here? Like that. Maybe we want to add some stitching around some of these littler pieces. There we go. So that's dressed up, that's fancier. Then we'll take it and fold it in half again. Fold these papers. Of course, you're going to make sure your glue is dry so that they don't come off the paper. And then we're going to add that to the edge of our page, like this. How cool is that, guys? I'm going to add some tacky glue on the front, the two inside edges here, left and right. And I'm going to let it stick out beyond the edge of my paper, but not beyond the edge of my journal. So I'll have that. I'll have that. This is going to have some glue on it and then a clamp put on it because it's a small piece that's folded over. And there we have, isn't that nice, guys? And how easy was that? You could add a little bit of green coloring on your leaf there too. So that's another way that you can add scrap or fabric to the edge of your page. I want to do another one, last project. I want to do another one of these. Where do I want to put it? Take this page here. I'm going to take another piece of this fabric, cut it to the length of my page. I am going to fray the edges a bit. I just pull threads until I get it frayed as much as I want it. All right, so I frayed it just a little bit. What I'm going to do is I am going to glue this straight up and down on the edge of my page. So I will take my fabric and add some glue. I will put my paper underneath my page again. I don't have the same, have to have the same amount on one side as the other, and then I'll fold it over. Then I want to take my needle and my embroidery floss. And I'm just using it, I believe it's still 6 strands to it. I'm going to add a knot at the end. I'm going to bring it up through between the fabric and the paper. It's not glued down real well right there. That's why I only glued the edges of it, mostly. Okay, and catch that knot, okay? And then I just want to go and whip stitch up one side and down the other. Trying to keep my stitches straight, but we're not worrying about it. We're just adding it. If you wanted them to be more perfect, then you could punch your holes, measure and punch your holes before you started stitching. All right, I've reached the top and I have decided I'm not going back down through. I think that's just enough on there, just like that. So what I'm going to do is go to the other side and I am going to make a knot. And then I'll cut that off. And I will secure my knot with a dab of glue. So there's another element that we can do on the side of our page. And look at what we've got going on here, guys. We've got some interest going on. We hold it up like this. Isn't that looking more interesting than just the sides of the papers? So I will do more to this. I will add, like I say, more lace. But for now, I've given you several ideas. Let's go over them. Well, I won't do them in order, but we did a piece of paper with some fabric. More can be done to that, and maybe I will do more to it later. But for now, we're going to call that good. We've added some paper to the edge, and this was just some scrap paper, remember? And let's see, what was another thing that we did here? We added fibers to the edge. I really like this. This is my newest thing that I'm doing, and I just really like that. And the old standby that is lace on the edge. I've done lace for quite a long time, as I think most everybody. And then we added, what we just did was some fabric, and then we did some slow stitching, whip stitching up along the edge. It shows on front and back. And there's another where we added some paper. Let's see, where are we here? We added a ruffle, and we've added a page tab. So that gives us a good start on dressing up the edges of our paper. I know you probably have more ideas, so let's go to it and get them posted on our Facebook community page as to what you're doing, and show us some new ideas, girls. The possibilities are endless, and I'm sure you have more ideas than what I have, and these are just a few I thought I would take the time to show you. So I hope you will enjoy this challenge. This challenge will run for the whole month of May. And if I do anything new in my book that's different than what I've got here, I will pop back on and give you another short video of another idea I came up with, or I'll post pictures or something. And as always, at the end of my videos, I have close-up pictures of our project. So if you want to stay to the end, right after I quit jabbering here, there will be photos. And you have a wonderful day, and I can't wait to see what you do to jazz up the edges of those journal pages. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye now.